Hello friends, I'm Povey of Maximize Your Potential, and today I want to talk about the importance of understanding the different stages of learning. It's vital us coaches, leaders, teachers and parents understand the way that people learn new tasks, new skills, different things, and the stages that they're going to go through when they're learning these tasks. And that will help us help them go through the stages as we recognize what's going on for them. Now, there's 5 main stages when we learn something new. So let's take something like hitting a tennis ball with a tennis racket. So the first stage of this is unconsciously incompetent. Probably talking about the air ball, you're not even hitting the ball, you don't know how to grip the racket, you don't know how to stand, you don't know how to judge where the ball's coming at you. Then the next stage is consciously incompetent. So now, somebody's shown us how to hold the racket, or we've looked it up on Google and seen how we should do it, but we're still not quite sure. We're trying to swing, but we can't get that timing right. We know what we're trying to do. We're trying to hit the ball, but we just can't get it all together at this stage. Then the next stage from this is consciously competent. So now we know what we're doing. So we know how to hold the racket, we know how to do the swing, we're kind of timing our swing okay, and we're managing to connect with the ball. Might not always be going where we want it to go, but it's probably pretty close too. The stage after this is unconsciously competent. Now we're not actually thinking about hitting the tennis ball with a racket, it's just happening. Same as when we've learnt to ride a bike, we don't actually tend to think about riding the bike. We get on the bike, we pedal, and it's unconsciously happening. Very similar to how we breathe. We don't think about breathing, it's just happening. And then the next stage from this is mastery. This is when you're seeing people in their absolute element, when everything just looks absolutely effortless. They're not thinking about what they're doing, they're just instinctively reacting and making the right choices. And this is when you're watching, expert business leaders give presentations, or you're watching, Olympic level sports people in their craft. So John McEnroe, famous American tennis player, described feeling this in one of his Wimbledon victories when he said that the tennis ball felt like a football. It was so big and easy for him to see, and everything felt so effortless. And this is that kind of flow state that people talk about, and kind of elusive state that people are trying to chase. And the kind of irony of it is it's not something you can just chase. It has to come from being relaxed and from, lots of excellent preparation to get yourself to that level. And it's important that we recognize when we're teaching people the stages that they're going to go through. When they first learn something, it's going to be really difficult to pick it up to begin with for most people, because they don't know how to do it. I know that can sound, that sounds incredibly obvious. Well, we're teaching them a new skill, they don't know how to do it. And that is what's happening. Our brain doesn't know how to do it, doesn't know how to move, doesn't know how to process it, doesn't know how to think in the right order for it. And we're actually going to spend a reasonable amount of time in that phase. And then we can get to the next phase, which is that consciously incompetent. And this is where people often get the most frustrated, because they're trying to do something. This is when they'll say to you, I'm trying to do it, I just can't get it. It's that phase when they know that they're not doing whatever it is correctly. They're missing with a tennis racket, or they're airballing it, or they're hitting the ball out of the park. That's what's happening in that phase, where they can't fine tune it enough. And then we're going to get to consciously competent, which is, the phase where you're kind of still thinking about what you're doing, you're tinkering with it a little bit. That might take you back into consciously incompetent as you're balancing between it. And then we move to unconsciously competent. And this is where many of us can exist on things. This is driving. We're not particularly thinking about what we're doing. We're driving, we're probably listening to a podcast, talking to someone else in the car, listening to the radio, and not consciously thinking about what's going on. And there can be, this can be good, and this can also be bad, because if we don't take that step back and go back into consciously competent and observing what we're doing, we can start to form bad habits, make mistakes, miss stuff. And this is where it's vital when we're honing our skills, whatever they are, that we take us back to being consciously competent, where we're really thinking about what we're doing before we can move back into unconsciously competent. And this is what you'll see with great athletes when they're tinkering with something, and they might even go back as far as consciously incompetent when they're trying something and they can't quite figure it out to begin with, but they know what they're trying to do. And we will see this. We'll see this with people that are learning. They're going to be going through these different stages. And if we know these stages as teachers, coaches, leaders, parents, it's much easier to see where the person that we're helping is at, and then to recognize, meet them, and allow them the time they need to move to the next stage. Because if we're expecting somebody to go from unconsciously incompetent to mastery, straight away, we're really not going to give them the time that they need. And if we're going to help somebody be better, we're going to need to be conscious that we're going to have to take them back to consciously competent or consciously incompetent to be able to get them to end up getting to subconsciously competent and to mastery. And mastery doesn't tend to last for that long. Same as you watch sports stars that seem to be great. Tiger Woods winning golf tournaments by 18 shots and then having to go back and twink with his swing, or even sometimes he completely dismantled it and redid it, because sometimes to go to the next level, to keep progressing, you have to go backwards. And it's really important you remember that. And, again, when you're doing presentations, if you want to go to the next level of charisma or mastery, sometimes when you're practicing the new things that you're adding to your repertoire, it's going to get a bit clunky and you're going to make mistakes. And my offering here is, have fun with it. Be honest with people if you're trying something new out and say, hey, I'm trying something new out today. Let's see how it goes. Give me some feedback on the end on what you think. And it's the only way that we can really break through. Now, as a sports coach, I've seen that the people that are the bravest about making mistakes are usually the ones that go on to the highest level, because you have to make mistakes to learn. You have to be on that edge where you're going to be getting close to or making mistakes to push yourself enough to learn the skill to go to the next level. It's just the same in anything. Entrepreneurs, leaders in businesses, they're going to make mistakes. If you're aware of what's happening, if you're aware of where you are in the learning process, you can take yourself back and you say, okay, I'm being consciously incompetent here. So I've got to recognize what I'm doing, look at it again, find ways to get back to being competent again. Or I just now need to stop thinking about it so much, stop analyzing it, and just subconscious will take over. I've got to that praxis level, my subconscious is going to take over. And this is one of those things that sets those really high performers apart, is they recognize when they've got to that level, they relax, they don't overthink it, and they just do it. And they trust the training and the practice and the preparation that they've put into it. And often we look at people and we think, my God, that person's so natural at this, it comes so easy to them. In my experience, those people are the ones who've practiced the most, practiced with the most self-reflection, been the most kind of kindly critical to themselves, looked at what they're doing, tinkered with it, changed it, and kept doing it, so that they're not just practicing. Because if we practice poorly, we end up with a poor result. They're practicing really well, and they're being really cognizant of how they're practicing, really evaluating it, and looking to keep striving forward. So I hope this helps. If you want to discuss this more, please reach out to me, message us on our Instagram, Maximize Your Potential Coaching, subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast, leave a comment below if you're looking at this on YouTube or Facebook. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks guys, and talk to you soon.